When Luke Richardson left to take the head coaching job in Chicago, the Canadiens have been looking for an assistant coach ever since. On the Sick podcast, I brought up the name of Alain Nasreddine from Montreal, Quebec, who was the assistant coach of the New Jersey Devils for 7.5 years and even coached the Devils for half a season. Former Montreal Canadian Mark Recchi, who worked with Alain Nasreddine as an assistant coach in New Jersey, joined me on the Sick podcast about a month ago, and he said it's too late. As it turned out, Mark was right. On July 1st, Alain Nasreddine signed as assistant coach of the Dallas Stars. We talked being an assistant coach, his career, and everyone he's had a chance to work with coming up on the Sick podcast. I'm Marinaro.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
And now a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Sports entertainment like no other. Brought to you by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature, and La Cage. If the last time you went to La Cage was when the Habs won the Cup, it's time you went back to La Cage. The menu will surprise you.
Marinaro, the Sick podcast, brought to you by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature, the beer for those who follow their instinct and live their passions in order to make their mark, and brought to you by La Cage. If the last time you went to La Cage was back in the day when it was called La Cage au Sport, well, you have no idea what you're missing out on. It's time you get back to La Cage. The menu will surprise you. This is going to be a pleasure. I haven't had a chance to talk to him before, but he's built up a pretty good reputation as an assistant coach in the National Hockey League. He played in the National Hockey League, in the American Hockey League in Germany, played here, there, and everywhere. He has extensive experience as a player and in the world of coaching, and he was relieved of his duties as assistant coach of the New Jersey Devils after 8 years with the organization back in early May, and he wasn't out of a job for too long because on July 1st, the Dallas Stars announced Alain Nasreddine is their new assistant coach. He goes to work with Peter DeBoer, or under Peter DeBoer. He joins me right now. Alain, how are you?
Hey, Tony. Thanks for having me.
You're very, very welcome. The last time I saw you do one of these, you were on with my buddy Jean-Charles.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Once in a while, it happens on the French media. I get a little more love there.
On TVA Sport. Well, now you're getting the love on the English side. Now, I know you're from Montreal, but where exactly? I read St. Leonard. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. I was born in Montreal and raised in St. Leonard. Have a ton of friends still there. And until I moved for hockey and I left for Drummondville.
So you grew up with the Italians?
Oh, I think I'm half Italian at this point. Yeah. Most of my friends are Italian, actually, from growing up in St. Leonard.
Yeah. I had a chat with Michel Terrien once, or a couple of times anyway, but he told me that he grew up in St. Leonard as well. And I said, you grew up with the Italians, and he knows a few Italian words. I would imagine you do too, but probably not good for the podcast.
No, actually it's not. But if you want to give me the green light, I can go ahead. But I don't think you want me to go there.
No, I don't want you to go there. Thanks for doing this. Where are you right now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm actually in Amherst, New York. I'm here with my oldest son, who's a 2007. He made the Atlantic District, and he's here for USA Hockey. It's a development and training camp. So all the 2007, 15-year-old kids are all here trying to make an impression. All
right. So he's still young, I know, but he's working towards the same career that his dad had, or?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, we're trying to give him the tools, and he's a nice little player. And he's come a long way to be here. It's pretty special. I mean, this is all the best 2007 in the country. So, 6 days in Amherst, New York, there could be worse things, but you got off a good start today, and we're here to support.
Is he a defenseman?
No, he's a forward. He's a left winger.
Really? Eh? I don't know why this happens, right? But your dad is a defenseman who ended up playing in the National Hockey League. He's an assistant coach. He coaches the D. If I was him, I'd be a defenseman. I got the best coach at home.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny you mentioned that, but you see it everywhere. You see with the other coaches in the NHL where they might have been a forward, their kids are playing on D, but no, I mean, he started playing hockey, he started being a winger, and never really tried to be a D. And
Yeah.
I'm actually happy he's a left winger. He's got the tools to be a left winger more than a D.
Is that right? That's pretty cool. It's good to hear. Alain, I know nothing lasts forever, and you were with the Devils organization for about 8 years. Having said that, I have to tell you, I was surprised when I got the word that you and Mark Recchi were relieved of your duties with the New Jersey Devils, because I thought I thought things were getting the better days were ahead, and I thought some good work was being done there. I didn't think the expectations were very high. It's an organization, a team that's been rebuilding over the past couple of years. Clearly, if we take a look at what they did now with free agency, they're trying to add pieces to the puzzle because now they want to take the next step. It looks that way. My question for you is, were you surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised. I had been there 7 years, and the interaction with management or the vibe around the team the last couple months kind of gave me the indication that, I could be on the go. Expectations weren't really high, like you said, but there were still decent expectations that we wanted to take the next step, and where we finished in the standings just wasn't good enough. And, you looked at our place in the standings, the way we were playing, who we were losing to, interaction with the management. I had a feeling that I wasn't going to come back.
You have a job now. You're with the Dallas Stars, but when you got word that your time was done with the New Jersey Devils, were you hoping to get a call from the Montreal Canadiens?
When I got let go, there was no opening in Montreal.
Correct.
What I did is, I reached out to a lot of teams that had openings. Montreal's it was my favorite team growing up. I had reached out just in case something would have happened, but I did that with many, many teams. You're just trying to put your name out there, but I prioritized the teams that had let their coaching staff go. And, it's such a small world that when you go around, you look at a team like Detroit, there's a couple of guys I know that have played with or coached. You do the same thing with Dallas, or you do the same thing and it's such a small world. So everywhere I looked where there was an opening, there's always someone I knew. So I reached out first and foremost to those teams.
You try and look for a connection because it's a field where really loyalty takes you a long way, right? A lot of friends like to bring in people that they can trust, that will be loyal to them. And it's been the way of the National Hockey League for quite some time, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, and the world in general, to be honest, it's, but the hockey world is such a small world that you form connections, you form relationships, and those go a long way. But I'll say this, I did not know Pete DeBoer until I got the job. I had met him a couple of times, just a casual talk here and there. So that to me is probably the best. The best thing is to know that your work is being noted, and that there was no past relationship and there was no friendship there. So he really looked at my work and said, "This is the guy I want. This is the guy I need." And here I am, part of his staff. And I'm really excited. He's such a good coach. We met last week, but this really made me feel like I did something good here, did something right.
One of the things I've always wanted the National Hockey League to do is to get the game closer to the fans, right? And it's improved in many respects in terms of there's cameras behind the scenes. They take you to the draft. They take you to trade deadline day. You're privy to some discussions that take place. The fans love that. Can you kind of reenact how your conversations were like with Pete DeBoer? How many times did you guys talk? How long did you talk for? Maybe what were some of the things he asked about you? What were some of the answers you gave? I'm sure the fans would be curious.
Yeah, I think I can be pretty transparent there. He was proactive. first time we talked, he didn't have anything on the go, and didn't have anything that was confirmed. So I think he was pretty shocked himself that he got let go. I would probably consider both our situations the same, where I didn't feel I should have got let go, and I'm sure he didn't feel like he should have got let go from Vegas. But we all knew he was going to get a job. He probably did that himself, and so he reached out early and just asking what my plans were, if I wanted to coach again, and see if I had anything on the go. And at that point, it was early in the process, and obviously didn't have anything, and really wanted to coach again. So that was probably a 5-minute conversation. And then he told me that we would be in touch. He would get in touch again later. And fast forward 2 weeks later, called me, told me that he was getting the job in Dallas. Start talking hockey. All the usual questions, like, what are you going to bring? What do you do? What are your strengths? And then we started talking systems, talking about what the Dallas Stars. He knew at the time what they needed to get better. So he started asking me specific questions on their weaknesses, and we just hit it off. It was just easy. It was just two guys talking hockey, like we had done it for 5-10 years, and it was an immediate connection, and it just we just hit it off. So at that point, it was really easy.
So obviously, being coaching in the league for as long as you have, everything about every single team. But I'm wondering, when you found out that he was going to be the head guy in Dallas, did you brush up on the Stars a little bit more so that you were ready for the questions, or did it all happen at the same time? I'm going to be the head coach in Dallas. What can you tell me about the Stars?
Yeah, I didn't. There wasn't much prep there.
Wow.
When he called me, I didn't know where he was going.
Okay.
I mean, I was ready myself. I mean, I had gotten prepared of, what I've done in this league for 7 years, both as an assistant and interim head coach, and again, player experience. So I was ready as far as that. But I didn't know it was the Dallas Stars. I've been around enough to know a little bit about each and every team, so it wasn't an issue.
In Montreal, we talked about the Canadiens before. Luke Richardson had said that he wasn't going to leave unless there was a head coaching opportunity, and he got that opportunity with the Chicago Blackhawks. You were a head coach on an interim basis there while a change took place with the New Jersey Devils. Would you like to be a head coach one day?
That's a long-term goal. I've said that for many years, especially when I got that experience a couple of years back. I really enjoyed it. I still consider myself young, so there's time and there's no rush. I don't want to force it. Right now, I'm extremely happy. I'm tied long-term with the Dallas Stars. Right now, my goal is to have success. Tony, what's been tough for me is 7 years. I've made the playoff once, and this takes a toll. Losing as a player, I missed the playoffs once. So I'm just used to of winning. My first 5 years in American Hockey League, we made it to the second round of the playoffs every year. So for me, it was really important. Not that I would have turned down a job like Montreal per se or Arizona, but I was happy when it was Dallas, knowing that they're in the mix and there's a chance of winning next year.
That's good to hear. With Alain Nasreddine, you had a chance to work with PK Subban with the New Jersey Devils. PK is not unanimous. I know you know that. Not as a player over the last couple of years. We had him here in Montreal, and a lot of things were said. What I love about him is that his passion for the game, his passion for everything, always upbeat, always full of energy. At the time of this recording, he's an unrestricted free agent, still without a team. Can you talk to us about your experience working with him?
It was a great experience. I mean, I think if you asked him, he would tell you the same. We had a good working relationship. We got to know each other over the 3 years we worked together. Obviously, his role changed over those 3 years. And what was important was for him to understand that and accept it. Not that he's just another player in this league. He's still a very good player. He's not just that, no longer that one or two that's going to contend for a Norris Trophy every year. But he still has a lot of hockey left. And my relationship was very good. To me, all I cared about it was on the ice. What can you do to help the team on the ice? And you mentioned it. He's extremely passionate. He comes into work every day ready to get better. And yeah, did he have some tough stretches? Yeah, and it's my job. It was my job to coach him, but he was always respectful, and that's all I ask. That's all I want when I coach players. I'm here to help you, and as long as there's respect in that relationship, there's never any issues, and I never had an issue with PK.
The game is evolving. It's changing all the time. It's probably younger and faster than it ever has been. In terms of coaching methods, have you had to change in terms of systems? Have you had to change in terms of the practices, the drills? Have you had to change in terms of, the way you coach the game in the last 7 years that you've been coaching?
You change every year, Tony. You have to adapt. There's always something where you can get better, you can adapt, and can change. If you ask, let's just say Lindy Ruff, who's been around for 25 years, it's probably easier for him to tell you, like, I had to change this much from my first year now. I've only been around 7 years, but I can tell you that I've changed from my first year, definitely. And the number one thing, and I think a lot of coaches would tell you, is the relationship you build with your players. If everything is one-on-one and every player is different. And that's where I think is my strength. I think I have good relationships with the players. I have good communication. I'm not one to come down and bark orders. Like, I just want to have that partnership and work with those players. And at the end of the day, they all want to get coached and they all want to get better.
A shout out to matrixhomefitness.ca, one of our sponsors, of course. You can bring it home, discover a club quality workout in the comfort of your own home. Visit matrixhomefitness.ca. I take a look at your playing career, and I'm going to have to put on my glasses for this one because it's a little bit, it's here, there, and everywhere, right? But you were 4 years in the queue, 2 years with Drummondville and 2 years with Chicoutimi, no problem. You were drafted by the Florida Panthers in 1993, 6th round, 135th overall. You did a couple of years with the Carolina Monarchs of the American Hockey League, on to the Indianapolis Ice as well for a couple of years. Chicago Blackhawks, Portland Pirates, Montreal Canadiens, Fredericton Canadiens, Quebec Citadels, Hamilton Bulldogs, New York Islanders, Bridgeport Sound Tigers, Wilkes-Barre Penguins, Pittsburgh Penguins, Wilkes-Barre, Pittsburgh, Wilkes-Barre, and then a couple of years in Germany. The fact that you played 74 games in the National Hockey League, most of your career was in the American Hockey League, international hockey in Germany. Do you find that helps you relate to a lot of players? Because there are a lot of players that are journeymen as well, and their careers are up and down and stuff like that. You find that helps you when you talk to players who either get sent down or get called up or in and out of the lineup?
100%. I've gone through it. The one thing that I can't attest I have experience is being a superstar in the NHL, right? I was never a superstar. The thing is, I did play with superstars. I played with Sid and I played with Malkin. I had a few games with Montreal where we had the Koivus and the big time players. So I know how these guys act and how these guys carry themselves. And yeah, that's usually the norm in the NHL. It's tough to make it to the NHL and stay there. So there's a lot of getting sent down, getting called up, and I feel I can really relate to those guys. And then when the young guys come up. My 5 years I spent in the American Hockey League, I was developing as well. I was green, and I had a really good head coach in John Hines, who is still my mentor, and learned a lot from him. So, you touched on it where it's a different game now. You got a lot of young guys coming up, and I don't want to say unfortunately, but you do have to develop at the NHL level, as crazy as it sounds. So, again, having coached 5 years in American Hockey League, having played a ton in the American Hockey League, getting called up, sent down, called up. I can really relate to a lot of players in the NHL.
Give me a Sid story. Sidney Crosby.
Sid, the first time I got called up, I was probably 29 years old at the time. For those who don't know me, I had a high compete. And the one day we practiced, and Mike Taryn was the coach running tough practices as always. And so we did this drill, was one-on-one battles. I ended up going against Sid. And obviously my first practice against Sid, he smoked me. Didn't like it. We went again, and I gave, I battled harder to make sure you wouldn't beat me. The next day we practice again. It's almost the same drills. And he points at me, he said, Nas, let's go. I want to go against you. Because I realized after he told me, I said, I like how hard you went against me. I want to go against guys that are going to play me hard. And I wasn't talented, but the one thing is I did compete. And for him to beat me, he had to compete. And that's all he wanted. So just Sid, the best player in the world, he approached every practice like it was a game. He was actually looking for it to get better. And I was just happy. So every day, every practice from that point on, we would go against one another, and I would give it to him. And then for some reason, I stopped him. He would really be a crybaby. He was like, "Oh, you tripped me, or you hooked me, or you held me," and I'm like, and I would give it back to him. But it was that competitiveness that really stood out to me. And he was 19 at the time.
I got a Sid story, and I'll never talk about off ice, but this one is one that I can share. I think for sure. It was NHL All-Star Weekend, and it was in Montreal. And I figured, or I had heard that the players were going to a certain establishment for a couple of drinks. So I figured I'll show up, and that'll be a good opportunity to do a little PR here and probably get a couple of phone numbers and stuff like that and make some contacts. And it's Montreal. So all the players that were going to be at that All-Star Weekend were really, really enjoying themselves that night in that particular establishment until about 3:00 in the morning. And 90% of them were a little tipsy and were wobbling out of the building. Sid that night sat at the same table, had one beverage all night, sat down with the same person and spoke with the same person and didn't move. I've never seen someone more professional in my life. And when the night was over, and he had left before then, and he was fantastic. And when I saw everyone walk out, and they had every reason to have a good time. It's All-Star Weekend, of course. There's nothing wrong with it. But I understood why he's the most complete player that this game has seen probably since some of the greats. Because, even in an All-Star Weekend, he wasn't putting anything in his system. He left early. He never put himself in a bad spot. I've never seen someone act more professionally.
Not surprised. I mean, I played with him for a year and a half, and that's the norm. It wasn't just because it was the All-Star break, knew the cameras there, people were there. That's him. That's the reason why he's the best in the world, and he's been dominant this long. I mean, his commitment to the game is just. I don't think I've ever met anyone like this, and you saw it. You want a story? I mean, it's a good story. We can reverse the roles, and I remember one night when Sid took care of me. And I was a 30-year-old and he was a 19-year-old, where I was a little tipsy and had a good time. Wow. So it just shows you how mature he was and how dedicated to his craft he is.
That's unbelievable. I want to bring up a couple of defensemen who have obviously had a fantastic season this past season. And just tell me the first things that come to your mind when I say these names, okay? Adam Fox.
Shifty.
Victor Hedman.
All around.
Roman Josi.
Dominant.
Cale Makar.
Best in the league.
He really is, eh?
I've had discussions. I mean, if I were to start a team, take away goaltending, he'd be really, really high. And watching the playoffs, this guy controls the game from the back end on both sides of the puck.
What you're saying is you could actually debate if you would start a team with Connor McDavid or Cale Makar. He's in that discussion, right?
For me, he is. And especially after watching these playoffs, he's that good.
Watching him in the playoffs, like I haven't seen a defenseman skate like that or provide offense like that since Paul Coffey. And with all due respect to Coffey, because, he did make one of the greatest defensive plays of all time. I think it was in a Canada Cup to break up a 2-on-1. But he's better defensively than Paul Coffey was. He's so unbelievably complete. It's incredible.
Well, everyone remembers that play where he's caught a little flat-footed against McDavid, and just started heading back and just ended the play in the corner against McDavid, who was the fastest, shiftiest, probably the best player in the league, according to a lot of people. And he made it look so easy. That's defensively. And, offensively, we all know what he can do. But, it would be a really good debate in the top three, but he's definitely up there.
I want to ask you a question or two about Montreal. A lot of people were surprised when Martin St. Louis was named as the interim coach. And this offseason, of course, his contract was extended, and he's now the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens on a permanent basis. When you heard that Marty St. Louis was going behind the bench, and his previous experience was coaching his son's Bantam or Pee Wee team or whatever it was, what did you say to yourself? I'm curious.
I think I was surprised, like a lot of people. I can be real honest. But this is a guy, if you look at his career, I know Marty. We played against one another, and when we were younger, with the same age. And you look how much he's persevered, and the dedication, commitment, and all that. I mean, once I listened to his press conference, I'm like, okay, the game of hockey, it's not just all X's and O's. That's just a small part, and anyone can help with that. But he does have that presence. I was impressed with his press conference, and then the way the team reacted after he took over. You could see the change in the way the team played. So, I think he's the guy moving forward after what he did once he came in.
Since you are the assistant coach of the Dallas Stars, I'm going to ask you now about a Dallas Stars player. Mural Heiskanen.
Future All-Star.
Wow. I guess you're really relishing the opportunity to work with him, eh?
I'm so excited. This guy, to me, I watched him. I know he can be one of the top 5 defensemen in the league. That's going to be my job, to work with him. He's got all the tools, all the talent. He's already established. I mean, we all know about him. He's already a good defenseman. But I want him to become great. And then in that conversation with the 4 names you mentioned earlier. Yeah,
and since I asked you about Montreal before, I think it was reported already, but the Canadiens did reach out to you, right? But you already had a job. Is that it?
Yeah, that would be accurate.
All right. That's it's unfortunate. Montreal's lost, but obviously Dallas has gained. Did you pick out a place in Dallas yet?
Oh, we went down there for a couple of days. It was 110 degrees, so it kind of slowed down our search. But a couple of spots that we have in mind. So looking forward to it. Are you a football fan? I mean, I watch it. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say the Cowboys were my team, but they probably will become now. I do watch it every Sunday. Alain, thanks so much for doing this. Have a great summer, and all the best to your son at camp. I appreciate it, Tony. Anytime. Thank you very much. All right, Alain Nasreddine. I love this guy, assistant coach of the Dallas Stars, joining me on the Sick Podcast. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. There you have it. The Montreal Canadiens called them, but they were a little too late to the party. All the best to him and to the Dallas Stars. I'm Marinaro. Have a good one.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by 8.6, Intense by Nature, and Lacage. If the last time you went to Lacage was when the Habs won the Cup, it's time you went back to Lacage. The menu will surprise you.